All right, so today we're diving into something massive, something iconic, well, you've probably played it, Call of Duty.
It's inescapable, right?
Mm.
I mean, everyone knows the name, the logo, but what's really interesting is how it got to be this global phenomenon.
Yeah, it's more than just a game at this point. It's practically a force of nature. And that's what we're going to unpack. How did Call of Duty go from like gritty World War II action to this titan of entertainment?
Well, you got to hand it to them. Call of Duty's success isn't just good marketing, though they're certainly good at that. It's tapping into something primal, that human fascination with conflict, with heroism.
Oh, absolutely. But then it layers on top of that this incredible sense of actually being in the action.
That's where the magic happens. You're not just watching a firefight.
Yeah.
You're the one ducking for cover, returning fire,
Yeah.
feeling that rush.
Exactly. And speaking of action, our deep dive starts right at the heart of it. Those early Call of Duty games, boots on the ground, World War II.
And choosing that setting, it's almost too perfect, right? I mean,
Yeah.
especially the European front. It came preloaded with this sense of moral clarity. Good guys, bad guys, fighting for a just cause.
Yeah, which really resonated with players. But here's the thing, a lot of games tried to capture World War II. What made Call of Duty stand out?
Two words, immersive experience.
Nailed it. It wasn't just about being in World War II, it was about feeling the camaraderie, right? Like you were part of a squad, depending on each other, to survive.
Exactly. The sound design, the dialogue, the way the action played out around you, it all built this incredibly believable atmosphere.
Yeah.
You weren't a lone wolf super soldier. You felt that bond with your squad mates.
Man, I remember today's early games. The sound design was mind-blowing for its time. The crackle of gunfire, the shouts of your squad, even the way the music would swell at just the right moment. It was like you were in a war movie.
And that expertly crafted atmosphere, that was key for what the series would become known for, later emotional impact.
Oh, for sure.
They established this foundation of intense, believable action. And that made players more invested in the story, in the fates of these virtual comrades.
And those emotional stakes, they got cranked way up in 2007. Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare. Talk about a game changer.
Oh, absolutely.
Suddenly, no more fighting Nazis. We're in the thick of it. Modern threats, terrorists, and the weapons, those felt ripped straight from the headlines.
And that shift from a historical setting to a modern one, that was brilliant for a few reasons. One, it tapped into these very real anxieties about terrorism that were, let's face it, pretty prevalent at the time.
Oh, totally. It just felt so much more immediate, relatable.
Right, and it resonated with the younger generation of gamers who grew up on, well, action movies, first-person shooters, that kind of thing.
It felt real. But we can't forget about the gameplay and, oh man, the multiplayer in Modern Warfare. Adding in a deep leveling system, customizable loadouts, total game changer.
Absolutely. Modern Warfare's legacy is cemented right there. They created this addictive gameplay loop. Play, level up, unlock new gear, customize your soldier, repeat. It was genius, kept players hooked, and it influenced a whole wave of online shooters that came after.
And it wasn't just the gameplay loop that was so addictive,
Yeah.
right? Modern Warfare's campaign. It was like playing through a movie.
Oh, totally. Those iconic missions like all gillied up, the tension, the stealth. It was a masterclass in level design. And speaking of iconic, can't forget the controversy.
Oh man, yeah.
No Russian. Just the fact that a video game could spark that level of debate, conversations about terrorism, about player choice.
It showed how much Call of Duty had become a part of the cultural conversation,
Exactly. This wasn't just entertainment. It was something people felt strongly about one way or another.
for sure. So we've got Call of Duty at the top of the gaming world, a full-blown phenomenon. How do you keep that going?
Well, if you're Activision, you push harder. From around 2009 onward, it's like clockwork, a new Call of Duty every single year.
It became an event, and they really experimented with settings, time periods, everything.
They had to, right? Each year they needed a new hook, something to up the ante. It was a risky strategy, but man, it paid off.
We saw them go back to the Cold War with Black Ops, then full-on futuristic combat with Advanced Warfare, even revisiting the modern era with Modern Warfare 2.
And it wasn't just about slapping a new coat of paint on things. They tried to push boundaries, like Black Ops 2 with the branching storylines. Your choices actually affecting the story. That was a big deal for a series known for its cinematic but linear campaigns.
It showed they were willing to take risks, try something new, but let's be real, this whole yearly release schedule, it sparked a debate too, didn't it?
Absolutely.
Were they pushing out too many games too
It's
fast?
the double-edged sword, right? You've got this huge fan base that wants the next installment, but you also risk oversaturation, burning people out.
And all of this is happening as the gaming world itself is changing. Free-to-play games like Fortnite, they exploded in popularity. Suddenly, charging $60 for a game felt, well, kind of
It
outdated.
was a seismic shift. The whole industry was moving towards games as a service. These always-on, constantly updated worlds. Could Call of Duty adapt?
And adapt they did. 2020, Warzone drops, Call of Duty goes free-to-play.
Smart move. Suddenly, anyone could jump into this massive, sprawling Call of Duty experience without needing to buy a $60 game.
And it wasn't just some tacked-on mode. Warzone was designed for this, a constantly evolving platform. New seasons, weapons, maps, it all fed into this loop of gameplay and progression.
It felt like Call of Duty was acknowledging how people consume entertainment was changing. People wanted these ongoing experiences, these worlds that felt alive and constantly evolving.
Not just a yearly blockbuster anymore, but something more persistent. It really is amazing how much things have changed, even just looking back a few years. But even with all the success, all the evolution, Call of Duty's had its fair share of, criticism, right?
Well, sure, any franchise this big, this influential, it's going to have its critics. You can't please everyone.
Exactly. But some of the concerns around Call of Duty, they're pretty common for these long-running series, like franchise fatigue, for one.
Oh, definitely. It's a real thing.
I mean, can you blame players for maybe feeling a little burnt out when there's a new game every single year?
It's a tough balance for sure. You're on this treadmill of releases. It's easy to fall back on what's worked before, even if the core gameplay is still solid. Finding ways to innovate, to surprise players, but also give them that familiar Call of Duty feel, it's a constant challenge.
And then you've got the whole conversation about microtransactions.
Ah, yes, the elephant in the room.
All those little in-game purchases, cosmetic items, weapon skins, all that. Some players, they see it as a harmless way to support the game, right? While others, well, they see it as a slippery slope towards pay to win.
It's definitely a complex issue, no easy answers. Game development, they cost a fortune these days, and these free-to-play games, you gotta make money somehow. But yeah, you don't want players, especially younger ones, feeling pressured to spend, or feeling like they're at a disadvantage if they don't.
For sure, it's a tough one. But hey, let's zoom out for a sec. When we look at Call of Duty's journey, from those early days of World War II to the massive battles of Warzone, this franchise is nothing if not resilient.
That's the thing about Call of Duty, right? It adapts. It's taken risks, sometimes stumbled a bit, but it's always trying to stay ahead.
They're not afraid to try new things, even if it ruffles some feathers along the way.
And that's what makes it so fascinating to study, not just for gaming, but for entertainment as a whole.
It's a story of evolution.
Exactly. Responding to trends, new tech, changing how we even think about playing games. It's a microcosm of the entertainment industry itself.
So what's next for Call of Duty? What's the next chapter in this ever-evolving saga? Your guess is as good as mine.
One thing's for sure, though. Call of Duty has already left its mark. It's a titan of gaming, a cultural force. But how it chooses to navigate the future, that's the real question, isn't it?
Will it hold on to that crown? Will it adapt yet again? Or will it fade away? I mean, these are questions we could ask about anything that captures the cultural zeitgeist, not just games.
It makes you think, doesn't it? How do we consume entertainment, and how do the things that grab our attention, how do they change with us?
Big questions, and maybe some we'll revisit another time. But for now, that's about all the time we have for our deep dive into the world of Call of Duty. From gritty trenches to online battlefields, it's been quite a journey, and it's one that says a lot about more than just gaming, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a story about innovation, about our fascination with conflict, and about how entertainment evolves right alongside us.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those controllers warm and keep those critical minds engaged.